So now today we're going to talk about tummy time and why it's important and what is the big old deal about this. And my kid hates it, and why do I have to put them on it, and why they're just, oh, I don't want to do it. What's the big deal?
How soon do we start tummy time? Because oftentimes our parents are like, I didn't even know that we were ready for that stage yet. But most of baby's brain's developing happens through movement. And so when a baby is on their back, essentially one of the analogies that I heard was that it's kind of like a turtle being on their back. Which is like they can't move, they're stuck in that position. And so a baby on their stomach has the ability to start moving their head. They can turn their head side to side, they can lift their head up, and that's the first movement that helps prime their nervous system to start progressing, because when a baby is born, their brain is not born fully developed. It starts at the bottom part of the brain and it moves from the bottom towards the top, it moves from the back to the front, and so the bottom and the back parts of the brain are specifically designed for movement. And so when we have a baby on their stomach, it helps prime their nervous system to where they can start going to, well, now I'm on my stomach. The first thing they do, and one of the most important things that we see a baby do, is be able to hold their head up. And having head control is one of the biggest milestones that we see. But as they hold their head up, then that starts priming them for the next thing, to where they can turn their head to the side. And eventually when they turn their head to the side and they bring their arm out and they throw their hips over, that's when they're going to start rolling. And so literally from a baby being able to hold their head up, which only is going to happen obviously with the baby on their stomach, that is the first movement and the first major milestone that we see that will help set the tone for all future development that's going to happen.
And one of the sidebars that I'll say is that if your baby is born and can hold their head up the same day, that is a red flag that your baby has a lot of tension, okay? So we should expect to see the head being picked up.
6 to 8 weeks is 1 to 2 seconds, and then at 12 weeks it's 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay, so if baby is holding their head up, it's a really good indicator that you need to get them checked. And so that's a sign that there's birth trauma. There was a big thing on Instagram where it was like in 2020 when they were like, these COVID babies, they're walking earlier, they're holding their heads up earlier. And all of that is sign of neurological tension. That was a tense baby because it was a tense time. Mom was tense in the pregnancy. Birth was really weird. They had to wear masks. Partners weren't allowed in the room. They didn't get their support people. And so we do not want to see kids holding their heads up right away, okay? So 6 weeks-ish. So why is this there's going to be an easy indicators, because you will be like, my kid won't sleep unless they're on my chest. Because the chest is the closest thing to the heart that is like it was when they were in the womb, right? So they'll love dad's heartbeat, but they'll love mom's heartbeat the most. And so you'll feed baby and then move baby up and lay them on your chest, and then eventually baby will start to pick up their head and look at you. Okay? And this is right when you're getting out of that dark 6-week period that happens after that intense postpartum period. And so when baby's starting to pick up their head for a second and look at you, maybe have a little smile, a little gassy smile, and that connection, and their eyes are open, that's your cue to say, tummy time, it's on.
Yeah, and even before then, if a baby can't hold their head up most of the time, and as long as they can turn their head side to side, if you put them on their stomach, they're just going to turn their head. And so that is still a great time to have your baby do tummy time, and they're still going to get the same amount of development, because what we're seeing a lot is babies with containers and babies being on their back, and the back to sleep program and everything is with babies on their back is something we're seeing is flat heads all the time. And so plagiocephaly is on the rise, and plagiocephaly isn't just like a cosmetic thing where it's like, gosh, that just doesn't look good. What is seen on the outside reflects what's happening on the inside. And so if the baby has a flat back of their head, it's because part of the thing that's happening is the back of their brain is having a harder time growing. And if the back of your head is on the floor or against something at all times, your head is going to be flat, because there's just no other option, because gravity is pushing your head into the ground forever. And so one of the best things that we see with tummy time is that babies have really round heads, and their heads get to grow and develop in this normal fashion, and we don't have to play catch up later on because the baby has been on their back the whole time and they have plagiocephaly.
And this is a big component of plagiocephaly, but it's not the only component. Mm-hmm. For a lot of plagiocephaly, they could have misalignments in their upper cervical spine that come from birth trauma. There can be latching issues, ties, there can be muscle tension and things. And so what we see in our office is that we see a lot of plagiocephaly resolve without a helmet, without intense cranial therapy, as we can start to free up the nervous system, make it better for them to latch, and get mom and dad to understand that the best thing they could do for their kid is to put them on their stomach. And tummy time counts on you. If you're leaning back and baby is here and you guys are interacting, that counts as tummy time. Tummy time is not this absolute lay on the cold floor on a blanket far away from a person. We shot a reel and we had a baby with a mirror in front of it. Because you know who we love more than anyone? Ourselves. Okay? So having it, if you have a toddler, having them be on the floor with them and having that interaction. That is a big part of making tummy time something they enjoy. But if you have a colicky baby or a gassy baby, sometimes it can be uncomfortable for them on their tummy. That's another indicator that we're having some digestive issues and that there could be some things going on in the spine that are contributing to that. We see a lot of babies who pass a lot of gas or have some really great burps or great poops after they get adjusted. And they sleep better than they've ever slept and they're jollier than they've ever been in the next 24 hours after that adjustment. And we have hundreds of testimonials about that. And pediatric chiropractic does in general. But there are factors if tummy time's not working for you or you feel like your kid hates it or all they do is scream. There's lots of ways you can do it. You can prop them up on like a boppy pillow or a towel. You can do it with them on your chest. They may need interactive tummy time. The thing you don't want to do is put them in front of a bunch of lights and sounds.
Yeah, and even just to take that one step further is like screen time. Like I don't love that either. There's actually a study that talked about tummy time. The amount of tummy time, the higher amount it was, essentially the faster that babies were able to move through their brain development. So their brain was actually able to develop at a faster pace with the more tummy time that they have. So tummy time increasing, but there were 4 different factors. Increased tummy time, sleeping an appropriate amount of time, no screen time, and reading to the baby. And so another easy thing you can do is read to your baby while you're both laying on your stomach. The baby's on their stomach in front of you. You're looking at them. Even another thing that we love is singing. You can sing to your baby, and that will help calm their nervous system down. But the more tummy time that your baby gets, the better that their brain is going to develop, because tummy time has so many crucial factors that lead to the progression of brain development, because all of brain development happens with movement, and babies are in the best position to move and gain control of their body when they're on their stomach.
And so your kid is born with all these primitive reflexes. And so those primitive reflexes have to integrate. They all have to do with survival mechanisms, breastfeeding mechanisms, all of these different things. And so part of the incorporation of those reflexes is being able to move their head from left to right. It's being able to develop, being able to lift their head. This is the first time they're starting to create their cervical curve in their spine that they're supposed to have, that many of us don't because we have text neck and computer time and all that. And so these primitive reflexes we see are not integrated in a lot of kids these days because they skipped these times where they were put into the exercisers. They were put into the bouncy thing. Because kids do love movement. Kids want to move. And that's why you can't not rock your kid to sleep, because your rocking actually puts them in a parasympathetic state and gets them to feel calmed down enough to go to sleep. That's where the trust comes in, the heartbeat and everything. And so tummy time is a part of integrating these things, because those things have to go away for them to be able to talk, for them to be able to walk and read and write and all of these things that we're not even thinking about when they're 6 months old and you're so done doing diapers. Yeah. But if you see a kid who's writing on a desk and they are laying their head down, sticking their tongue out and writing, that's an indication to my husband that they don't have a retained primitive reflex, and that actually if you don't untrain that, it gets in the way of other developmental things later.
Yep.
So tummy time's really great. If you're having a frustrating time with it, you want to reach out to a provider that can help you work with your child. There are lots of pediatric chiropractors love this. There are pediatric OTs and PTs that love this. But getting through the hard part of this and pushing through and figuring out, well, how can I set my kid up for the best tummy time? And every kid's different. Our daughter didn't do tummy time the same way that our son did, because each kid has a different personality and different likes. You're going to figure that out for your kid. But we're here to encourage you not to give up and to know how important this silly little thing is. And then if nothing else works, get them on your chest and talk with them. And that will be sufficient. Thanks for tuning in.